All right, welcome to episode 37 of the War Room. We've got the Hard Nose Derby podcast guys, Steven and Derek, here to drop a huge announcement with King of Ohio, and I'll let you guys have the stage.
Oh, what's up? Man, we've been waiting to do this since you sent us an email. What was that?
A month ago.
I finally made him throw the paper away.
I guess he was afraid people can zoom in and stuff like that, or I guess look at the list over Spotify. But it never got leaked.
No, it never got leaked. We've hinted towards it a couple times, and guys, we're here. Everybody talks about competition. Brian made this post when we announced this tonight. Everyone talks about competition, but not everybody's about it. And I want to tell you right now, we found 3 guys. It took us 2 years to get this matchup done. We wanted to do it last year, and we couldn't find 3 guys. This year, we finally found it, and it just so happened to work out with some sponsorship stuff, which will be coming out later on. But we got JT Hiltibran, who is our 2023 King of Ohio. We got Chad Markley, and then we got Pete Hansen in a group of 3 that are going to run against each other, not in the feature, guys, but in the heat in our format.
So my big deal is, how many drivers did you have to go through to get this matchup put together?
Well, I think there's a lot of drivers that think that they carry the weight, right, of to probably deserve this, this opportunity. But look, let me go back. What this is this is a headliner heat. When you go to a Taylor Swift concert, okay, we've been saying this for a long time, but some people maybe have not heard us say this. When you go to a Taylor Swift concert, you buy tickets because Taylor Swift is the headliner, right? But there's opening acts all the way through. And that doesn't mean that Taylor Swift is any more important than the opening acts or anything like that. What that is Taylor Swift sharing the platform, okay, with everybody else, with the future superstars of the sport. That is what these 3 have chosen to do. Now, look, there is obviously some sponsorship type stuff, sponsorship dollars involved in these 3 running against each other. But even with that, we had to answer your question, the list was pretty big.
Everybody wants that smoke until it's time to do it.
Until it's time to get the smoke.
For sure. And look, it's got to be the right 3 people, right? It can't be, just JT fits because, right, he's the defending champ. And, Ohio, if you're rating it in Derby states, it's up there, right? And if you're the King of Ohio, well, you're a bad dude. And
Yes,
that's undeniable. Then you got Markley's resume speaks for itself, right? I mean, 4-time Blizzard Bass champ. Just all, go on and on. And then you got Pete, who is the perfect character to play the 3.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Exactly. And his resume speaks for itself. So, yeah, man, we are excited. Everyone says they want to see it. Well, here it is. I mean, does it get much better than those 3?
We actually talked on the podcast just the other day about,
we were given some for instances.
Correct. Who would he pick for his 3 guys? Who would I pick? We didn't say what you just announced.
But a couple of those names come up.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, do you want those guys that are just going to go out there and just nose out, just nose up, and don't give a shit about what they're doing? And then we'll worry about consolations and features later on. Or do you want 3 guys that are just going to go out there and just be so
a complete
strategic and just cat and mouse? I mean, the list can go on and on, but without a doubt, the 3 guys that you have gotten to do this, that's this level.
This heat right here, this feature that you all are talking about, is one of those that this is the true definition of, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And if you come out on top of that one, you get a crown.
You done something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Brian.
I was like, yeah, absolutely. And what it does is it shows that there's guys out there who are willing to go against each other, you know, who might sit there and say all day long, I'm the guy, I'm the man, I'm the baddest dude there is. But, you know, you give them an opportunity to run against other people, you know, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm going to go hide in the politics. I'm going to go hide, you know, at a certain show with a certain promoter where maybe my buddies are the inspection crew or whatever. Well, that's not going to happen here. So these guys have all, you know, agreed to run and just beat each other up and figure it out on the track finally.
I know a lot of bad dudes in this sport, without a doubt, that are bad dudes with their buddies or with their group that they run. The situation that these guys are getting put in, they don't have that choice. It's 3. And you're only taking 1 out of the 3. So it's not real a good chance where you can go run and hide. So you're going to see who's going to get ready to throw their balls over their shoulders and get it on for, I'm going to guess, probably a 20-minute heat.
Oh, that
For 3 cars.
Man, I've been thinking about that a bunch. I don't know how long that's going to last, but it's going to be a dog fight.
Y'all can stand. I'm calling 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
We've averaged under 13 minutes a heat at the King of Ohio. And that's with having a couple that were really, really long. I will tell you that there will be other groups of 3 on the track at the same time. So there will be at least 1, maybe 2 groups of 3 on the track at the same time. So there will be other action going on out there. And look, they're not allowed to hit each other. You know, your group of 3 is your group of 3. The only time we get involved is if you take a shot on somebody else and affect, you know, their group of 3, you know, we will get involved then. But look, everything at the King of Ohio it's all in your hands. If you're the baddest dude that day, well, like you said, throw your balls over your shoulder, come out and prove it. And it's going to be in front of everybody.
What this is going to do is open up so many call outs, I feel. I think you're going to have people fighting to do this.
Well, dude, I hope so, because this is welcome to combat motorsports, guys. This is what we are. We are combat motorsports, and we've talked about, you know, with the whole demo thing and what we're doing there, and taking this thing outside of the demolition derby world. When we have those conversations, one phrase that Brian and I are continuously using is we are a combat motorsport, and that essentially means we're the UFC with cars. So just imagine that. A lot of it's the hype, a lot of it's matchups. People want to see this stuff, and they want to see it get a little edgy. And I don't know if you look back through some of the posts, Chad's made a couple posts that pokes at Pete. I'm in a group text right now with those 3, and Chad was poking on Pete just a little bit tonight. You know, so it's going to be fun.
So what's that old famous saying? Don't poke the bear.
Well, which bear are you talking about? Because there's 3 of them.
That's the issue. Because any 3 that want to poke, they're poking the bear. So how high does this want to get ramped up for that 20-minute heat? Because I'm calling it again, 20 minutes.
I know Pete doesn't have any problem poking a bear. Like he'll
Hell
do
no,
it
he
all day long. That man will tell you. He'll tell you what he's about to do to you, then he'll go do it.
What you all have put together is the shit that everybody talks about when they're drinking beer in the shop after they've been working on cars all day.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I'm going to make a meme. I'm going to post a meme after this, and it's going to have Pete Hansen. It's going to say, the big 3? Nah, it's just big me. You know? And I'm seriously, I'm going to make that meme. And hey, we might even have Pete post it, because I guarantee you Pete will post it. And dude, honestly, we laugh about it, but like that just made me, you know, have chills. You know, I want to see Pete post that, you know.
Well, no, that is what creates the hype. That's what gets the people interested in this stuff. Because if you told them that 3 people were doing this in their backyard, nobody was going to cover it. Nobody would care about that. We want to see it. I want to be in your face. I want there to be a little bit of bad blood going on. I want somebody to be a little butthurt about what was said or what was posted, because that right there makes for good derby entertainment.
Motorsports entertainment.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, you're right.
You
It
guys are-
exists in every other motorsport. Why not us? Why not us too? It should, right?
Well, you've seen it in NASCAR. You had Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon. You had Dale Earnhardt, Bill Elliott. These have been rivals in motorsports forever. Tom Mintz and Dennis Anderson. Why not Derby? It's there. Let everybody see it.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think we haven't had that? Just because you think it gets uneasy to talk like that and act like that, or
Nobody's gave them the stage to do it on.
Okay.
And I mean, we all know there's huge stages in the sport of demolition derby. Blizzard Bash, Capital Carnage,
Gold Rush.
There's stages out there, but nobody has just had the nuts to say, hey, this is what we're going to do.
You all need to get after it.
Correct. Turn it up, and it's time to go and go now. Nothing against any other promoters or anything, but there's just certain shows that even if you guys watch on pay-per-view or you watch in person, certain shows have certain stigmas that easy to say, they bag their ass off. And they shouldn't. I mean, they're in 12,000-pound mod cars that you should never bag.
And we've kind of dug into that, talking about, you see a lot of the same guys at these bigger shows, and they run different at different venues, and that's that show stigma that we talk about all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality of that is, I mean, this might rub some people the wrong way, but the reality of that is I got to get the comments pulled up, by the way. I didn't even pull them up. So the reality of that is, that isn't selling, right? Like, it's not getting to an outside audience. We got to get to an outside audience. The job is to grow the sport. I told Brian this the other day. I said, when is the last time that you heard somebody in the derby world talk about growing the sport? Like, and actually growing the sport, because I was listening to this conversation, and they talked about the NFL taking over Christmas Day. I don't know if you guys have saw that, but they if you think of Christmas Day, you think of NBA games. You think of it's the Knicks, it's LeBron, it's that. Well, the NFL came in and just said, no, we're the big dog. We're taking over Christmas Day, and so now the NBA is like, what do we do? The reason why the NFL did that is because they're looking out for the best interest of their sport. It's a very captive audience, right? On Christmas Day, and people are going to be watching sports. They're doing that because they're growing the sport. And when's the last time that we really grew the sport or are aimed, at growing the sport in that sense? If that makes sense.
Well, I think it's everybody's definition of what growth is to the sport. I mean, because more big shows, that's growing it, but
that's for the driver though. That's not the fan base.
So not all these fans can sit there and go to South Dakota and then turn around and go to Blizzard Bash, and then then you've got Spring X and River City Rampage, and then you've got, I mean, it just keeps on going and going. So to grow the sport is one thing, but to grow the fan base has to be a totally separate division, in my opinion.
Because people like other promoters and stuff, they have tried to appeal to the fan base, but still, I've been to Gold Rush, Blizzard Bash, we've been to Utah. Out of all those, I'm telling you right now, Utah, you could have went up in the crowd and been like, hey, that metric GM's got a 14 bolt under it, and they would have been like, I don't know what that is. But you do that at Gold Rush or Blizzard Bash, and you're talking to another Derby driver or family member of a Derbier.
Yeah.
And that's what him and I, we've asked this question a million times. What's it going to take to get people that don't give a shit about a derby car, but like watching stuff get torn up to watch this?
Yes.
I think we've got to look at the entertainment aspect of it. You guys mentioned it earlier. It's an entertainment thing, right? And I want to reel this back just a little bit. You know who's benefiting right now in the Derby world of everything that's going on the most? You guys mentioned it. The drivers. The drivers are absolutely at the forefront of benefiting of everything that's going on. It seems like there's announcements every day of bigger and better shows. One thing that is missing, in those announcements is the growing the sport. And that's two different lenses. Is growing the audience of the sport and then growing the opportunities inside the sport for the drivers, two different lenses. I would venture to say that growing the sport and the audience of the sport is somewhat one of the, I don't want to say unintended consequences, but one of the consequences of that is going to benefit the drivers. So I think the aim should be more to the left here of growing the sport and the audience, because all that stuff for the drivers and all that, it's going to have to grow, as you get exposure. But it seems like
the opportunity to grow the benefits for the drivers is there whenever you grow the sport. We've talked about it before, trading cards. Just straight up fan memorabilia, any kind of merchandise where, say you give out 100 shirts with your team name on it. Well, if you've got the following, like the NFL or NASCAR or Monster Jam or any of that, you know how many kids are running around with a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt on whenever I was in school?
Yeah.
Like, why can't Derby be on that level?
There's no reason. There's no reason why. We have the characters, we have the sport, we have the violence and the combat and the drama. We have all of it, so why can't it be? There's no reason.
I mean, that's the thing we talk about it a lot is when we went out to Salt Lake City, Utah, we actually got to watch, and I'm talking watch. The stadiums are like a coliseum. They hold 10,000 people, and they sell them out, and it's a fair show. Fair show, not national level. A straight up fair show sells 10,000 seats, not counting your pits, not counting your vendors, not counting all your other stuff. 10,000 seats, and they sell them out every show. You guys, your group, the demo group, I don't remember what the seating is for Bristol, but it's an ass load. Way more than 10,000.
Yeah, 160,000.
Was it 160,000?
Yeah, there's 160,000 seats.
Holy shit!
You just made it busy.
Yeah, I mean, we're not. People are going to say, "Oh, it's going to look, like it's dead or whatever." Like we're not naive. We're not selling 160,000 seats. NASCAR doesn't do that there anymore. But look, what can we get down there? What can we get down there with getting out to outside of the Derby community? And I shared some news with you before we got on. We're not ready to announce that yet, but of evidence of that happening, right? So if we can get the Derby community there, we have the matchups, because look, guys, we talked about, Pete, Chad, and JT tonight. Wait, you guys have seen the list for the pro and the pro light. It's as good as list as you've ever seen in your life, and it's ×2.
Hold on, time out. That list is stupid.
Yeah,
straight up stupid. It is. We talked. It's 95% of the baddest dudes in the country. In our opinion, 95%. There's another 5% of some bad dudes that aren't on that list.
Why can't we get the last 5%?
I think a lot of it is prior commitments, and that type of ordeal. Um, like a good buddy of ours, his son just qualified for
So
the
time
youth national
time
for the
out.
youth nationals.
No,
So
time out over here. We got Bristol Motor Speedway, and it's paying $100,000 to win. Come on, how are you not getting? How are you not getting 100%?
Skepticism is going to be your biggest one. He didn't want to say it, but I will. You all know exactly what kind of scrutiny that you caught when you posted this shit.
oh yeah,
Until you prove yourself, you're not going to get 100%. I'm not saying that you can't.
What exactly does this group of people have to prove? What exactly? Like we've talked about this. We want people to be controversy and whatnot. The names and people that we have a part of this, okay, that have tied their names to it. What do those guys have to prove? Well, what have those guys not done in this sport? Like how is there any skepticism to that? How are you being skeptical of those guys? Me personally, I'm involved. Brian's involved. Guys, we paid the highest payout in the entire country for 2 straight years. We started with a $10,000 show. What do we have to prove? I know people say that, oh, you got something to prove, but really, what do we have to prove? We got the baddest dudes, the biggest names in the sport align with us. Like how are you skeptical of that? Is it?
Well,
I guess what I'm saying. Are you sure it's skepticism?
it is. I mean, it's keyboard warriors hide behind a screen. It's the dude that tells 4 other guys something that they heard from one other person's cousin's brother. It's the trickle down effect that you get through social media. Do you think you could ever wipe that clean? Absolutely not.
Nope.
You're not going to, because there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like you, doesn't like me, doesn't like Chad Markley. That's where you're gonna catch that shit, and they're haters. I mean, and you're gonna have that. If you don't have that, you don't have a following, because they give you views too.
Yeah, and some of those guys, as this goes on and it becomes successful, and they see the magnitude of this, especially when we start dropping some of these teams and some of the other information, the new developments that are happening as we speak, and you guys already know about one of them. It's going to hit them in the face, and they're going to have to either swallow their pride and say, you know what, I was wrong. And the fact is, there's a lot of guys out there in the Derby world who just can't do that. They can't say I was wrong. For one reason or another, but hey, we're not here to keep anybody out. We want everybody to be a part of it, and if they deserve it, then the door's open. If you continue to kick us in the face and throw shade our way, well, you know what, the door swings both ways, and you just keep on walking. We're going to move on without you, and that's kind of the way we feel about it.
Now I know a lot of guys that aren't really skeptical. They just want to see how this first one goes, from registration to tech to the show itself and everything. They're not, like I said, they're not skeptical. They're just on that fence. They just don't want to go to one side or the other. They're just riding that line just to see how that first one goes.
The old fence rider.
Fence riders.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Can it be bigger? Sure. It can. We've always said everything can get bigger. It's as big as you want to make it, but you've got to have a lot of people on board to make it even bigger. I think
Whenever they see this list,
they're gonna go, holy shit.
there's going to be people that wish they would have joined or been a part of it. And like I said, I was 100% in from the start, just because of the idea of what you all were doing. Before any details were released or anything, just word of mouth of where you were trying to go with it. That's what sold me on the whole situation. A lot of guys aren't like that. Fuck, some guys like to see people fail. I mean, you're going to have that too.
Yeah, and they'd
Yeah.
almost pay you to watch it fail.
So,
Some guys will buy tickets just to see that, probably. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
They want to see if it's a
Well,
complete shit show, but they're probably not going to be the ones to tell you this show was badass. They
Right.
will just kind of hide behind
Go
closed
away.
doors. Yes, and they'll just move out, but they'll be the first person to
Well,
probably
like
sign
next
up next year.
Well, time out, guys. We got Chad Markley, Pete Hansen, and JT Hiltibran running against each other at the King of Ohio. Like that type of stuff. I'm telling you right now, that type of stuff is going forward. Like that's going to happen at all of these shows. Like we're going to have headliners at all these shows, and we're tying them to sponsors. Like the reason why this is happening is because their sponsors like stepped up to the plate to take care of these guys. So like the headline, the tide's changing, and you guys mentioned something here with inspection. All they want to see how inspection goes. You know what I want to see? I want to see someone that went through the heartache that we did, okay, and put in the work to make sure our inspection was essentially a third party. So at demo, we have a inspection director that isn't tied to the two head inspectors. How the hell does that work? I want people to compare that type of stuff because I want everyone to see like what we're doing different. We know there's an inspection problem. You guys know there's an inspection problem. And it's motorsports, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
my buddy gets away with this or that, or I know that guy, or hell, there's some shows out there that like guys that have ran on our buddies that ran on teams are inspecting, the team that they ran on. Like it's crazy. It's asinine.
Oh, yeah.
And we went through great extents to make sure that we have like separate entities, especially with demo.
Well, it's that right there. And I told Derek this. I said that keeps the honest man honest. Because if one of the other inspectors sees the other inspector doing something, they're like, nope, not today.
And
No.
I promise you, the guy you got for the director doesn't care who he pisses off.
No, Dustin Ingram is our director. We're gonna see if he'll come on your guys' stuff, and we'll have him on our stuff too. But he's overseeing the whole thing, and like people are like, well, what does that mean? Well, that means he's gonna make sure it's consistent. Like it's being called. Hey, look, you told this guy, by the rules 2 cars ago this, because he's our ears and eyes, as a sanctioning body in the inspection line. This you must, it's going to apply here too. And no
I thought
one's
he was
ever
like
done.
retired.
Well,
I did. I haven't seen Dustin for so long. I
He
thought
puts on
he
his
was
own shows.
retired and just up in Canada fishing or something.
No, he puts on his own shows. He has his own promotion up in Canada. He puts on like 12, 14 shows a year. I think he just kind of walked away from like the big scene. I'd like to get him on. Maybe you guys can ask him maybe kind of why he took a step back. But I'm sure COVID played a factor in that. They were kind of shut down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking he was trying to come across the border for Carnage or Blizzard Bash or something, and they stuck him at the border, so he just had to turn around and go right back home.
He might have been one of those guys that didn't get a shot or something and wasn't allowed to leave. Maybe.
Well, fuck that
I'm
shit.
not-
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, that you know what I'm saying? That could be a possibility. Hell, you guys maybe he'll elaborate on that.
I do want to back up a little bit. You said a word there that you could say until you're blue in the face, but until somebody follows through with it, nobody will ever have 100% trust in a tech, and that's consistency.
Yeah, but how is that measured? This is what I found as a promoter is nothing is measured. So when we put out like no different than you guys saw the headline that the press release with Bristol, and it said biggest demolition derby ever. Well, that kind of got a little controversy stirred up. Well, people got to realize that that's the press. We don't really write the articles. Okay, we can't go in here and control what the press writes, for one. But
You're telling me you didn't go to that hometown news source that did that and write that headline?
Nah, man, we didn't do that.
Are you shitting me? You didn't do that? Like, yeah, people don't realize that shit.
Yeah, people just run with their own stuff. But like what we've realized is things aren't like measured. Like how do you measure what is the biggest? If we're not the biggest derby ever, what is the biggest derby? Is it measured anywhere? Is it documented? Is a fair tech? What is a fair tech? Is a fair tech to you the same as it is to me? Because what I found that a fair tech is when I get away with shit and you don't get away with it. That's what
100%.
Bingo.
But nobody's calling a spade a spade. Nobody's talking like that. Nobody's like, I specifically got in my own inspection line at King of Ohio and I became the head inspector just because I got to take the heat anyways. I might as well know what these cars are, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think what he's meaning by consistency is because I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus right now. But 4-man team show, all 4 cars had the same things, certain things done to them. The first 3 had to cut, the 4th one didn't, for that aspect of rules. Turn around and one guy had to cut and the other 3 got through with the exact same thing. So I think that's what he's meaning, consistency. If you got a guy that is short, so be it. Either restub it or put horns on it. Do what you got to do, but do that to every one of them, not just the 2 guys that you might not know or might not like or might not respect. I think that's where that consistency comes through because, when you have Austin Johnson and Michael Zerr, and then you've got Dustin Ingram over the top of those 2, and I'm sure that Mr. Zerr and Mr. Austin Johnson are going to be your only 2 big car techs. I'm sure somebody's going to be coming in with them, whether it's somebody you guys are bringing in or somebody that they're bringing in. As long as everybody can be on that same page and you have 16 pro teams and 16 pro light teams, not one of them are going to bitch or complain as long as everybody had to cut the same shit off that they all had done.
So I agree with you. So I got questions on that is why does that happen?
Well, I can tell you, as a former promoter myself, I can tell you where those rules end up getting laxed. So we had a guy show up. We had our rule 60-inch door bars. Well, he showed up with a 62-inch door bar, but the only way to write that car was for him to cut his tank protector out, because it was connected to the last 2 inches of the door bar. Well, we're like, it's not really going to affect the structural integrity of the car. The next show, guy showed up 34 inches.
64 inches.
Or 64 inches. Well, that's just 2 more than what we let in last time. And then that shit snowballs from there. Finally, we reeled it back in. If you show up with anything more than a 60-inch door bar, you're putting the fucking thing back on the trailer.
And they were pissed. I mean, they were legitimately pissed. Why didn't you tell us? Well,
that's not gonna
Facebook.
That's not gonna make the car any harder. Well, it's not, but it's not the rules.
Yeah.
So what are the rules written for? I've had so many conversations with Markley and Pete and everyone about this, and Brian's. We've had a million conversations. What are the rules written for if you're literally not going to enforce them to the T?
Bingo.
Yeah,
Right there. That's a rule. Because both you guys know, when you look at a set of rules, whether it's a local fair show in Missouri or Illinois or probably even in Ohio, This is not a set of rules. This is a guideline to help you build your car. So as soon as they see the guidelines, they're like,
Great.
where's the gray areas and why? So now you've got guys looking at rules to find every piece of gray area it is that's in there. And then you've got those guys that say, hey, if it doesn't say you could do it, it means that you can't do it. Well, does it say anything about stretching a frame? Does it say anything about cold tilt instead of cutting it? I mean, can you weld your?
I mean, because honestly,
it can just go on and on.
in my opinion, I mean, to get it where it was 100% legitimate, leaving human error out of it, you would have to go to templates like NASCAR does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe so. I think that the sport not being not taking that leap into professionalism, and people actually being able to commit the time to it to being a professional has held it back from taking that step. I don't necessarily think it's as much as people not doing or being bad or letting things through. I think it's the time commitment that people can contribute, whether it's to writing rules or whether it's to knowing the rules or enforcing the rules, in that 20-minute inspection time. I think that's probably the problem or the biggest problem. Now, look, we all know that there's people that overlook stuff, okay, on purpose. Like that happens. But the reason why we don't have really defined rule sets is there just hasn't been. Think about it. Like, don't they say like you need 10,000 hours to be a professional at something? How many inspectors out here do you think have put 10,000 hours into writing rules and enforcing rules?
I don't know any.
Maybe 10% out of 100%.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's that. I mean, I don't know if there's anyone, including myself. Like, I don't know if anyone has literally put 10,000 hours into being a professional.
Now, if you want to flop that, I can just start naming people that have 10,000 hours in perfecting their build, reading into rules, creating new ways to do this to a car, to do that to a car. And the creativity that comes out of this sport is second to none.
Yeah.
The fabrication, the plate placement, the way they build their bumper brackets, the way they set their front suspension up and shit is like nothing you see in any other sport.
For a bunch of dumbass rednecks. I mean, and that's really what we're called, dumbass rednecks.
Yeah.
And I really truthfully think how you're kind of hitting on this consistency and everything, most of these like fair shows that you go to, even around you guys, guess what? If it doesn't pass tech, they got two choices. They can either fix it or load it. Now, if there is a platform set up that you go across that in that tech line, if you have more than a little slap on the PP of getting that car through into that show, that might change the outlook of guys always overbuilding. Because what do they always say? Just build it and I'll cut it when I get there.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have that option a lot or very minimal option, that might take some of that stuff out of there. And as long as you've got a tech that's got the nuts to say, no, this shit ain't flying. This is what you're going to do. This is your one chance. Well, not go cut it, come back. Well, you didn't do what I said. You didn't cut enough, so they go back again. Then they come back up. They got guys retaking 4 times. If you would have just done it right the first time, you wouldn't have had to worry about it.
Well, I've got something on the minute end of that, which just used to drive me up the wall. You're allowed 5 hood bolts. They'd show up with 8. Why? I mean, black and white, right there, cut and dry. You get 5 hood bolts. I bet we got to take 3 of those out. Whereas now that I look back on it, I should have been like, take all of them out. Because you couldn't read the rules where it says 5 hood bolts, take them all out.
But then why can't you do that, right? So like when you start talking like this and you start putting it all together, it all comes full circle. You can't do that. Why? Because you're going to lose drivers. You can't lose drivers because you're at a county fair and they don't care about the stands being full. They want drivers, and when drivers go complain to them, then now you're not promoting there anymore. It all comes down to organization, to why everything's not, right. And I tell you, man, it's not really fun. Um, Brian, you've been on this side of things. It's not really fun, like implementing, this is how we're going to do things. I mean, Brian, you know this. It's no secret that we're like, as the demo, you have to change your your profile picture, all that. It's not really fun going through everybody's profile picture and making sure that it's changed. So when you implement something, you have to stick to it. You have to regulate it. It's not a fun thing, but it's necessary. And our sport has lacked in so many ways. And it's caused these types of problems.
Where what it's lacked in is it's lacked in accountability. There's virtually none of it because there's no consequences for doing things like cheating. The consequences. Oh well, I just load it up and I'll take it to the next guy who's going to let me get away with it.
Now you get a fine.
Now, like with what we're trying to do and what every other motorsport out there does, is there's consequences for showing up to an event purposefully trying to circumvent the rules that have been written. That is against the spirit of competition. That shows your character as a person, as a builder, and that's just stuff that we can't allow. We have to start changing the mindset and the culture of people in a sport that's been doing it the same way for 50 years. We have to start changing that mindset, and how you do that is you create accountability, and that's what we've never had before.
And it's not like, we're talking 5-foot outlaw cars. We're not. I mean,
No.
We're not, you're not putting 1/2-inch plate steel around the entire car. Kickers galore everywhere. And it's not that. I mean, you guys have came up, which I'm going to ask, you have a board, correct?
Correct.
Now, was that a voted on board?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you have a board of directors, I would say.
That's an internal government.
Yes. To
Yes.
regulate your demo organization to make sure that stuff is supposed to go accordingly with rules, build processes, and all that shit. So all the guys that you have on that list, they voted on that. So they have to put trust into their choice as well,
Yes.
knowing that group.
But that's
have
what
their back.
that's what they're getting at with the consistency part, where he was asking me and all that shit. Like they're trying to take that guesswork out of this shit. If you do push that, you're in trouble. Like you're gonna get reprimanded for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like some jokes about that and stuff. We hear them. There's some jokes, this, that, you got to change your profile picture, or you're going to get fined, or this and that, but like, that's how it has to operate. That's the accountability, that's how all motorsports operate. That's how all sports operate. Tyreek Hill, he doesn't wear socks. Okay. And he's getting a fine from the NFL. Why? Because we're here to represent a product. This is the way we are presenting our product. I will tell you right now, we got sponsors coming on board that have never been in the Derby world. Go ahead and take one of those sponsors off the side of your car. Brian was going to hand you a nice little fine. Like,
Yes.
it's not acceptable. When they come on and be a title sponsor, they're going to be on every car. And that's just the way it goes. It's
Well,
no
how many dollars in fines did Nike pay for Jordan over shoes?
Mm-hmm.
Same deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole point of this, I guess, is we're doing something different here. We're doing something different in the terms of, I'll go back to the Chad, Pete and JT thing, the superstar matchups. We're doing something different in here as far as where the places we're running, the people that are going to be involved in this thing. We're doing something different in terms of payouts, the way inspection goes, just the accountability across the board. And, we're not really playing in the derby world anymore, if that makes sense. Like, we're going to the motorsports world. And the motorsports world is a totally different entity. And I think that's where people kind of get mixed up still, is they're different places, and the accountability and the things you have to do are different.
So, to that end, demo, we have bylaws, we have competition rules, things that we've set up and created for that very reason. So, if I myself, if I do something I'm not supposed to do, I'm going to get held accountable. And there's a bylaw, and there's bylaws that speak to those kinds of things. There's accountability built in for everybody in the organization, from Dustin's level on down to the drivers, or the inspectors even. We have accountability set up for those reasons, and that's how it has to work. And if it's set up any differently, then you're creating a failing entity. It's going to fail quickly. It's going to eat itself from within, and it's going to become just another promotion that does the same thing, trying to create a different product with the same recipe. And that's what we continue to see. And people think, oh, well, this is a new show, it's going to be different. Well, how's it going to be different? It's not set up any differently than every other one of them that ever has been before it. So
I know one thing that you all were catching a whole bunch of internet scrutiny over was the membership thing. That was one thing that I thought was badass. It really sets everybody apart from your local promotion company. Because I feel like, and the people that supported it and stuff, they know what the purpose was. As a driver, you are a part of it. It's just like any other sanctioned event. If you're a tractor puller, you've got to pay a hook fee. If you're a mud truck driver, you've got to pay a sanction fee. And without the membership, or if you've got the membership, you don't have to pay those fees.
He hates when I say it, but I spent 20 plus years in circle track racing.
Gross.
And every race that we ran, whether it's United States Modified Touring Series, IMCA, USRA, guess what? You bought a license.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have said license, then you didn't get full payouts. Your track membership was even more expensive. So why not? If we signed up for a USMTS race and bought our license, they handed you a sticker pack. Here you go. Put these on your car. When you go through tech, and if those stickers are not on your car, PP slapped.
And why is that? Why are they doing that? Why are they structured that way? And why would we mimic that way?
Because it works. I mean, when you have title sponsors, whether it's from the upper level of your sponsor to your bottom sponsor, they're paying you to promote their service, whether it's parts, cleaning business, whatever. So they're chucking money out. Put that shit on your car. Don't question it and roll with it.
When we pulled with Lucas Oil, whenever we were tractor pulling, if you didn't have a Lucas Oil sticker on your tractor, you didn't pull that night.
Yep.
Right. That's the way it should work.
Yeah, and people look at it like that's a bad thing. Like belonging to the membership is a bad thing. Why is it? Why not be proud of where we're going? Be proud. Make a statement. Be proud that you helped get it there. Because in reality, man, we're talking about this, but the only reason why this happened is because what is it, like 28, 29 charter owners got together and literally said, you know what, we believe in this vision and we are going to support it wholeheartedly. They didn't say, hey, we believe in this vision, and by the way, no one else can come with us. They said, hey, we'll pave the way, We'll plow the field. We believe in the vision. We'll put our money where our mouth is, and we will go get this done. I think that is a key element that kind of gets overlooked in this whole thing. The same thing with JT, Chad, and Pete. Do you know how many people have turned that matchup down? Okay. I can tell you this. There's one person that has stayed consistent in the past 2 years, and that is Pete. Pete's never said no to anyone. Oh, that guy? Yep, I'll run against him. Oh, that guy? I'll run against him. Yep, I'll run against him. I'll run against him. He's never turned it down, ever. And then obviously JT being the champ. But what I think what gets missed here is these guys are paving the way. They're plowing the field. They're going to showcase to the Derby world how it can be done. And that is the coolest thing about this. Dude, we have headliners of events. And people are going, oh, I heard they're getting sponsored. Yeah, just like we want everyone to get sponsored. Like, don't we all want to get there? Guess what? We all aren't. We do start out in Pee Wee football sometimes. Okay. These guys are at the pinnacle of our sport. They deserve it. They've earned it. They've earned the eyeballs. So I think that gets lost, and the thing is, these guys have paved the way.
If people will invest in an imaginary coin, why not invest in a sport that you love?
Yes.
Well, and the thing about the memberships as well is what people don't understand yet is that membership will pay for itself. The benefit packages that are offered with each one of those, the discounts alone, I can promise you. Oh yeah, I can promise you, man. I can promise you, those are already they'll pay for themselves in one event, and they'll be like, "Wow, I should have."
What did you say?
Waiting on that shirt.
They all went out in the mail on Monday, right? Brian and I packaged them up last week.
My dog will probably eat it before I get home, but that's fine.
Hey, we want you to do a video. There's a nice little letter in there to say, hey, look, take a video of you opening that up. Because it's cool. It looks like I got my ID out of here, but this is the IDs that you guys are getting. So it's like a little fold out, deal. I mean, this is nice, man. I'm telling you. Like, it's nice stuff.
Okay, there is something I want to ask you guys.
Here we go.
We know that shows of this magnitude aren't built overnight. 100% truth. How long has it taken you guys from start
until now
to now?
From when the idea of Bristol happened?
Yes, sir.
I had to look this up the other day of how all that went down. So I think it's about 1 year in the making. Now, you got to understand that this was more than just Bristol. Bristol is somebody that I went and contacted, okay, and got a hold of over a year ago. And I went back into this because one of my connection at Bristol that I work with pretty much daily, Ryan and I work with, I was like, how did we even, somebody asked me, how did we even get in contact with them? And I had to look back through like how it all happened. So it was over a year ago, but remember, people overlook this too, I think. And this wasn't just Bristol. I think anyone could have said, like, there's a number of big promoters out there that could have said, hey, I got Bristol, by the way, let's have a Derby there. Right. And the thing is, it was coupled with an organization, because to me, Bristol was all about, it was an opportunity that needed to come with and needed to be at the forefront of organizing the sport. So when you combine the two, I thought, that's what Bristol allowed us to do. Bristol gave everyone the big picture, but then it allowed everyone to come together under an organization. And I thought those two had to be paired. I thought if you didn't pair those two, you missed an opportunity, if that makes sense.
Well, I've got another question that kind of runs along that. Do you think it would have the same impact if you would have went to Talladega?
No. Have you guys ever been to Bristol?
Uh,
No.
I've been there, never for a race or anything. I just went, checked it out, and rolled out.
Brian, describe Bristol?
I mean, it just kind of takes your breath away when you get inside there. It's one thing to see the track and the infield and the Coliseum nature of it, the magnitude of just the facility. But the history that's associated with that track, the racing legends that have been there, and just, how even the current NASCAR drivers look at that track. If you listen to like Dale Jr.'s podcast, and, he talks about Bristol a lot, and just, it's always a place where the action is high, where, it's where it happens. It's where action happens, regardless of whether it's NASCAR, if it's sprint cars or whatever. And that's something that we got to associate with in our sport. We want to associate with those venues in our sport, and Bristol is just the perfect place to do it at.
Well, and my dad has been an avid NASCAR fan since I was born. I mean, he loves that shit. And the only NASCAR race that I actually ever enjoyed watching was Bristol and Martinsville. That was it. And that was because there was a shitload of wrecks at both of those.
He didn't watch it for the races. He watched it for the wrecks.
Like we went down for the spring race, and we got to watch the spring race. And I'll tell you, I have never been so engaged in a race, period. Like it was all around you. It wasn't a thing where, on the bigger tracks, the super speedways where, the pack's way out there and you kind of wait for them all to come around, and then you see them and then they go off again. It's literally 360 degrees around you. You don't even know where to look half the time. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Now, another question is, did you guys have any clue what kind of shitstorm was going to be brewed once everything dropped on Facebook?
You had to know.
At the exact time when we are actually talking with Mr. Jason Dials, he scrolls all the time.
Yeah,
so we're talking with Dials, and he's on his phone, and he's flipping through, and he's looking at me, and he's going, "Holy shit!"
And I'm mouthing to him. I'm like, "Dude, they're doing it right now. Like it's happening."
Hey, we listened to that episode where you guys were like, "I scrolled again. I scrolled again. There it is again." So we were listening to that down at Bristol at like 2 a.m. when we were bullshitting, drinking beer with Pete Hansen. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. It was hilarious. So the answer to your question is, yeah, we knew. We made everyone aware the best we could, right, Brian? I mean, I guess to describe that, I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
after that,
we kind of, before we put it out, we had several meetings saying, "Hey guys, listen, this is what's going to happen. You guys are all going to change your profile picture. We're going to announce this organization, and guess what? There's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to hate. They're going to hate." And they have no reason to hate. They have no facts to hate with, but they're just going to hate it because of who's involved, or what it means, or that they weren't asked to be a part of it, or, for whatever the situation was.
Man, it made for good content, though.
But you know what? I mean, we expected all that to happen. And, at the end of the day, the way I look at it, and I've had to answer a lot of those hate questions, a lot of those, skeptical people. It's okay. Skepticism, I'm okay with. That's a healthy mindset. When you don't understand something, you're skeptical. But what you got to do in turn is ask questions. It takes little effort to just ask a question, and I'll answer the question. It's the people who run around repeating and saying things that aren't true, never happened, or they think they know, and they absolutely don't. Those are the people that I almost laugh at. I'm like, you have nothing better to do with your life than to make shit up and run around and tell everybody else a lie. Like, sweet.
I
dude.
love that shit though.
It's funny. Like, it makes me laugh. Like, I can name you names.
Just as good as somebody sharing a post.
Yeah, like it's comical to me. I'm just like reading it. And I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about, but you're entertaining me.
And then you've got dumbasses like myself that's like, fuck it, I'm in. And he's like, in on what? I'm like, I don't know, but I want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, look, and there's a crossroads when you come to something like when somebody tries something, okay, and let's say one of your buddies is tries something right new. I'm going to go on this new adventure, right? There's there's a crossroads that you can take, and one is the easy way out, okay, and the easy way out is always to say, hey, look, it's not going to work because that's as much effort as you're going to put into the entire plan is just to say those words, right? The other way is to say, you know what? What do you need me to do? Okay, I'm gonna lace them up, right? There's an episode in The Town. You guys have seen The Town, I'm sure, right? Where Ben Affleck says, "Hey, look," he looks at his buddy. He says, "Hey, look, man, we're gonna go do some bad things, and I can
Can't
tell
tell you
you,
where we're going.
yeah, I can't tell you where we're going, can't tell you what we're doing." But his buddy says,
Whose car we taking?
That is that's the effort, right? There's two different mentalities there, and there's two different efforts. One, very little effort to say, "Hey, I told you so." Oh, congratulations, man. You took the easy way out. You said that this thing that's never been done is going to fail. Wow, you're a genius. You know what I'm saying? What a
No.
call. What a
And
call.
now we're gonna go fuck shit up, and we're gonna have the whole nation watching this, and I'm gonna prove to you that we can do this.
All they're doing is making us work harder. That's all they're
Yep.
doing, and Dustin and I take that, and that's they call that bulletin board material, chalkboard material, however you want to say it. That's what it is to us. It's like, all right, watch this. Watch what we're about to do. Watch who we're about to get to be involved in this. And we've already given you guys some of those names, and that's where that kind of stuff comes from. Is like, guess what? We're gonna do it anyway. Hate on it all you want. We're gonna do it anyway.
Just that old redneck saying, "Hold my beer and watch this shit."
It's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, beer. I mean, that's. I think we're being 100% honest here. I think the monetary, that is what blew people's mind. They're like, there's no way that anything like this can happen and work. Because we've seen some, who was that dude in Illinois tried to pay like 25 grand?
Eddie, what was his name?
No,
Charlie.
Charlie.
Yes. He about got lynched on the way out of that son of a bitch because he ended up paying like 2,500.
Yeah.
So I think
I don't think he paid. Didn't he leave?
No, I think that dude's still walking around with cops.
And I think that was that kind of a big, I'm not going to say a red flag, but holy shit, how is this going to work? We've ran numbers before, and it's very easily workable because some of these coliseums that we're talking about, that's 10,000 people at $25 a seat.
You could make this shit work in a way smaller facility.
Oh yeah. So I just.
But that's not Bristol, baby.
That's right. I just haven't figured out why all these people are, and I'm not saying all these people, but there's so many people that are skeptics.
Well, you all know just as well as we do. If it works, that's where you were going. If it doesn't, shit, we tried it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's one of two things that are going to happen, right? To sit back and say, "Hey, I told you so," or to be the guy, putting in the work, right? And there was a comment that came in. I haven't got to a lot of comments, but we paid cash at the King for that reason, is because people question it. It was like, okay, well, there's some shit talkers here in Ohio that were the first time we paid. We did 25,000. I remember exactly who it was, and we keep receipts of that stuff, man. And they said, "Hey, did the check bounce yet?" or something like that. And I told all the drivers, that tell them that the check can't bounce because it's cash. Okay,
That's right.
so And that shut that right up. But I don't forget who said that. You know,
Well, every time we wrote a check with Filthy Promotions, I was like, I hope you all can dribble.
so you go about it a little different. You joke with it, but me, I mean, look, in all reality, everybody, you know, that came together to do this, you know, put some in the pie, right, to make it all happen. And whether that's your reputation, whether that's your money, whether, you know, that's building the car or whatever, like everybody's involved. And honestly, we want everybody to succeed here. This show, we didn't disguise this show as attacking other shows. We didn't do that. We didn't put it on a week before another show. We didn't do that. We didn't go. We went after the best drivers and the best fits that we could, but we also didn't get everyone that we should have got. You know, like, and that needs to be noted too. That's something I wanted to touch on earlier is, dude, it's never been done. So everybody's saying that, oh, I would have done it this way or that way, or this guy should have been involved or that guy should have been involved.
Wouldn't do it.
It's never been done. Yeah. If it was that easy, go ahead. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Brian, it's one of the hardest things we've ever done in our entire life.
It's been more than one time where we both kind of looked at each other like, you know what?
Yeah, I was like,
I don't know, man. Like, this is getting a little stupid.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You guys are pushing yourselves to make this shit happen. A lot of people, oh, you guys got a podcast. Well, guess what? It's fun. We do have a good time when we do it. But
you know how many
promise you, we look at each other and we're like, do we fucking want to do this one tonight? No, we don't. But guess what? We nut up, we show up, we do it. Whether you like us or you hate us, we're putting in the effort to make this shit as big as we can possibly make it. There's times I don't want to sit on Messenger or Snapchat or send text to promoters and drivers and shit. I've just worked 12 hours. I don't really care to do it.
But 101 weeks, we've done it.
Yes.
Every week, we sit down and we do it. And if people don't want to realize that, that's fine. Let them have that opinion. It's whatever. But we're going to keep doing what we do until the bottom drops out of it or we end up on the top.
Yeah. And I'll tell you from my perspective, I know Dustin probably feels the same way. You know, I don't care if people appreciate how much work we put into it. I don't really care. What I care about is the end product, that it's right, that it's done correctly, and that it benefits the sport. You know, and there's some comments in here that say it's going to hurt the sport. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. If we do it correctly, it's going to do nothing but enhance Demolition Derby all the way from Bristol all the way down to your local county fair. And there's a number of ways that works.
So you're telling me that you're not doing this just to line your pockets?
Yeah, that's
have you been paid a dime, Dustin? Because I know I have.
Well, that's the common conception, and that's what people hide behind, because that's the easy thing to say. I'll tell you right now, if this thing doesn't make money, then we failed, right? Money
Correct.
and profit is a bad thing in business for some people. What's wrong with that?
That's what pisses me off. Everybody loves to see. Well, you made money off that.
Good.
I put $30,000 up to make it work. Yeah. Hope I got a little bit of return on that.
You know,
Yeah,
we hear people say, well, it's a money grab. Well, it's a business. So yeah, like every other business, of course it's a money grab. That's what a business
does. Walmart.
Yeah. But, you know how you go to work. Most guys aren't business owners, so you know how you go to work. In order for you to get paid, that business has to get paid by somebody else.
Yep.
They got to provide a service. The only thing we're doing is providing an entertainment service. Just so happens to be in something that we love to do. Shame on us. Shame on us.
You have no clue how many times we've had the same fucking argument with other people.
It's just it's honestly, it shouldn't even be an argument, man. I mean, what is there to argue about?
Well, you made $3,000 off that show. Yeah, I would hope so. Because if I lost $3,000, I'll quit.
Right. Well,
But
and this
that's
is
the
what
thing.
other promoters are doing in the country. They're surviving event to event. Like, why would you continue? Like, why would you want to have that kind of stress and anxiety in your life constantly? For what reason? Like,
Why do you think we got out of it?
yeah, that's stupid. It's just stupid. It's not a healthy business model. It's unnecessary, and there's a better way to do it. So if we can be successful, we can do things like create programs. We can use resources and get people involved from outside of the sport and use a trickle down effect to help those local promoters out, to help those local shows out. And nobody wants to talk about that. They just want to say, oh, well, Demo's just trying to make money. Well, yes, we are, but there's a reason why we're trying to make money. It's to help the health of the sport and further the interests of the sport.
Do I personally think that everything is going to be absolutely perfect? No. There's going to be something somewhere. But the deal of it is you guys as a group will actually take that and run with it. You will say, hey, we fucked up. We're going to fix this for next year, though. You guys aren't just going to put it all on the back burner and just roll with it and do it again. Because what's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same shit over and over with the same exact outcome.
Right.
So you guys are going to take
different results.
You guys are going to take this and fix what needs to be fixed. But these people aren't even giving you the opportunity to get to it to see if it needs fixed.
Well, on that note, I think a lot of times, I think we're as guilty of this as anything. Is a lot of times we get hung up on the negativity because the loudest people in the room, are the negative people. Guys, we've almost sold out our VIP tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Not every single one of those people that bought a $275 ticket, and didn't say a word on the price, posted that they were supportive. You know what they did do is they bought a ticket, So, we kind of get hung up on the negativity, but people, there's support out there for sure,
Oh, yeah.
On that note, I am still looking for a teammate. Just throwing that out there.
We can get you a teammate. Post
What
it.
class?
Got the
What division? What division you want to run?
He's in the rear-wheel drive stock.
Oh, okay. Let's go. Let's get him. Let's get him a teammate. I mean, let's get people signed up for these, man. I mean,
do you want a teammate that has about 2.5 million followers? Maybe
I don't care.
8 million followers.
I don't care who it is as long as they're going to run balls out. That's all I care about.
No, I'm sure they will.
Oh God.
Hey, so the last listen, by the way, I wanted to reiterate, people are just tuning in. We have Chad Markley, freaking JT Hiltibran, and Pete Hansen running against each other at the King. I'm telling you guys, man, they're paving the road. And this is going to be the new standard because all those names that you talked about earlier, we're going to see them in the future run against each other. And it's because of these three. It's never happened. These three are paving the way. But there's some other things I wanted to talk about. There's recent drama. There's drama every week in the Derby scene, right? That we gotta talk about because people want to get your opinion. Trading cards. What's your guys' thoughts on the trading cards?
Yes,
I love the idea.
I do too. I know that there are a few floating around
Mm-hmm.
that I've seen personally. I know there's a few people locally that have a Rob Hewer rookie card that I've seen it. I love it. I love the idea of it. I know my kids would eat that shit up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got a kid just straight east of us, and he sells Hot Wheels
cars,
Derby cars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what he sells is the Derby and the old school original in the package, just
Old school Hot
75, 76 wagons. I mean, just old school shit. And he sells them like hotcakes. So
not getting rich off of them,
Nope.
just getting them out there to the public. And if that was a trading card aspect, or the Topps cards, like look right up there
Oh yeah.
in this closet in our office. There are 4 boxes of NASCAR cards
Mm-hmm.
right there.
So why can't we do derby cars?
Mhm.
Trading cars. It's the same thing. You might not. I mean,
Derby car go.
yeah. Would a Pete Hansen autograph trading card be worth a Michael Jordan rookie card? No.
If they get accomplished what they want to, it will be.
Very well could be.
Yeah, everything's worth what people will give you, right? But I agree with you guys. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. You talked about the model stuff. I know somebody coming out with something really big here soon in the model car industry, and that's all those things help the sport. There's nothing that's going to hurt the sport when those types of things happen. It's cool. It's cool to see. It's cool to see the growth in the sport. It's cool you guys are. I tell the guys. I've told the guys this a lot, and Brian has too, and the guys have told the guys right within demo, you're superstars and you don't even know it yet,
Mhm.
and they are, because if there was a Pete Hansen card, if there was a Chad Markley card, if there was a JT Hiltibran card, people would be collecting them, and my
Yeah,
kids.
I think it's a great idea, man. And there's a lot of humble pie that goes around it with some of these big name guys who think, oh, I'm not that big, or I'm not that important. It's like you really are. You don't know the width of your influence, and that's admirable that you don't see yourself that way. But at the same time, you could do a lot of things for the sport by just owning it and buying into it and spreading it.
There's a kid somewhere that has went to a local show and seen you run that is rooting for you at the next show, whether it be the way you painted your car, the way you run your car, whatever car you were in. I can take you right outside the door of our office here, and there are 6 totes full of diecast cars that my dad bought of Jeff Gordon's that he gave $110 a piece for. And you don't think people would do that for derby cars? Of course they would.
Mm-hmm.
That kid
I
walks
was
through
that kid.
Walmart and
know?
sees, Chad Markley's car, a diecast car, 16 scale car. He's going to want that. And his parents are going to get it for him.
Yeah. I was that kid. I was that kid sitting in the stands. I didn't grow up in a derby family. Nobody in my family derbied. I'm kind of the oddball in my family. They all kind of look at me cross-eyed, like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you out there building trucks? And, why are you out there doing this derbying stuff? It's because I was that kid, back in the early 90s, sitting in the stands, watching my first derby and seeing that round back wagon screaming across the track going, man, that is freaking cool. And then I fell in love with the sport. I I was all about that driver, and that's what it does. We want to give more kids that same experience.
I just, going back to the Chad and Pete and Mr. Hildebrand, I think you guys at that show, you need to set up just a little portable tent or a portable building betting station.
We need a full-blown Vegas style bookie up in that bitch.
That's right. Whatever you can do there and let people just go crazy, because I promise you, once this all comes out, which it came out just a little bit ago, what people are going for who. They're going to say, well, Pete's going to destroy these guys.
I don't know where my money's at.
And then you've got your Kansas and your Nebraska guys are like, we've seen Chad. He'll be in a wagon. This is what he's going to do. Pete probably being an 03 or something like that, or 98 to 02. And
then you got JT,
JT, you never know you don't know what he's going to bring, but you know what he's going to bring to the table. So how fast can everything get divided? And you might as well say, what the hell? Just let's bet on it.
What do you think? All right, give me your guys' your betting odds. Give me on the
Nope.
No odds.
Come on now.
That's
Come
1-1,
on
that's
now.
across the board.
There's no over and under on this.
Brian, what's yours? Or give me your winner. You have to give me.
It's a conflict of interest for me. I gotta step out. I love everybody.
You guys got it. You guys got a winner that you
Oh
think?
man, we were talking about this earlier, man. I don't know. You're putting 3 heavy hitters in the ring.
Our editor's sitting back here. She said the prettiest car.
Yeah.
I promise you 2 of them are going to be black.
No, they're not.
My winner is the first one that reaches out to us and contacts us about being on the hard. I can be bought.
The paint schemes on these cars are going to be, to the respective sponsor. So,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
You know, we do
See, that's when brand loyalty is going to have to come in.
These two of these brands are not in the Derby world currently. So you've never seen 2 of these brands ever be associated directly in a sponsorship role. So everything that everyone says can't be done, right? The sponsors that everyone says impossible. Well, here's the first 2 rolled out.
We talk about it quite a bit. That dumb shit happening.
A switch box failure.
Loses a spindle nut.
Wire comes off a distributor.
Tranny goes out. Break an axle, break a drive shaft. I mean, because all those are going to put into play for these guys. So you've got to talk about the person that's going to have the best luck. Because
I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
Chad, I'm sure Chad will be in a wagon. Is he going to get the opportunity to go in reverse for that 20 minutes? I'm
saying you speak that.
Is Pete gonna, catch Chad when Chad's going after JT? Is he gonna knock a wheel off? We've never seen it happen. Capital Carnage. Chad Markley was in a Lincoln, which he's been in before, just not on a big stage. But we watched an axle go straight out. We've never seen Chad lose
Nothing
axle
like that.
ever.
I've seen him lose steering,
Yes.
but he can wheel a car.
Yeah,
we know that.
And then Pete, Pete, if he takes an 03, is he going to have 03 problems?
All those factors play into it.
You guys are
I
getting into
can't say who's going to win.
I like that.
Well, we get to talk about this shit on a weekly basis. Like this is what we do. Like we diagnose and we dig into every issue that you can have with whatever car. So that's honestly where our decisions on a lot of that shit come from, because you're not the first person to ask us who we think is going to come out on top.
Because you can really break it down. You can look at Chad, who is very, very technical.
He's
very
meticulous as fuck.
meticulous and strategic.
And then you got Pete, who will go wild if need be.
And be strategic. And then you got JT,
who's proven himself.
yeah, and who could do both too. So
Yeah,
I
and
mean-
can't forget that JT has won. He's been there, done that. So
Yeah,
nobody else. Pete's ran King of Ohio before. He
Yeah,
got 6
but
or
he's
7.
never won it, right?
No,
He's
he
never
won.
won it. Never won it.
No, Pete hasn't won it. So they're coming. You got to think about that. Pete and Chad are coming to JT's home turf.
Yeah, but they've got a point to prove. He's got a title to defend. So that's the
Pete's
shit that I
never won
love.
in the
That's
state of
what,
Ohio, by the way. Pete's never won in the state of Ohio.
Never.
that right there is the shit that makes our podcast what it is right now.
Yeah, Pete's never won in the state of Ohio. JT is the King of Ohio. Okay, and that's not even a debate, right? And Chad, I don't think
Chad's ever ran in the state of Ohio.
I don't think
has he?
Chad's ever ran in the state of Ohio.
I think he's running. I know he's running Illinois. I'm
No, he
Awesome.
has. He's ran in Limaland for Dent.
Did he?
Yeah,
Did
He ran-
yeah,
Okay.
for Dent.
I was gonna say I knew he ran in Indiana as well. So I mean, that's getting over there. Is it when you've got three veterans? It's not like you've got the one veteran, one up and coming hot shoe, and one loose cannon. You don't have that with these guys. You've got three.
Strategical bad motherfuckers on the track.
Bingo.
And it's going to be so fun. I don't know. We don't know if we're getting a 5-round wrestling match, or a drop down, drag out slugfest. But
It'd be badass if we could make it out there, but I don't see our schedule being able to.
Oh God.
I'd love to be there for that.
well, if you can't be there, it'll be on Derby Nation. So
I'm probably going to get yelled at by Dustin while I'm standing on the wall. He's probably going to yell at me like, "Quit watching the Derby."
yeah. So constant reminder of me up in the tower is reminding the wall crew, stop watching the Derby. Like, call the Derby. Because here's the thing. I'm telling you right now, Brian hasn't been in this situation yet, but the guys that have been on the wall crew at King of Ohio, because we do the format, it's the hardest position you'll ever be in. And the reason being is because it's down to 3 every time. You never know when someone's going to lose steering, so you have to count every hit. So when Brian hits me, it's got to be communicated on the radio. Brian has contact, and the clock has started. That's got to happen every single time there's a hit made. And if there's 6 to 9 cars out there, imagine how crazy that can get.
Well, we've talked about it before whenever we were putting on derbies. I've had people come up to me and they're like, "Did you see this?" I'm like, "No. No, I was on the dirt. I was officiating the derby. No, I didn't get to watch it."
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't see what happened on this end of the track? No,
No.
that's 300 foot away, dipshit.
I had 3 guys down there that were taking care of that. I'm watching this end.
Yeah, I was doing my job, right? Like that's and that's a hard thing to do, man. You've got to really switch mindsets when you're on the wall, because it's really easy to have an oh shit moment and say, can we rewind that 2 minutes because they haven't hit each other and they both lost steering and I have no idea how this should be called.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You can't
and
do it.
I've been there, and it's the shittiest position you can be in this sport, and I will defend what I just said till I die.
Yeah, it's not a fun position.
No, everybody's like, "I want to be a flagman." I'm like, "No, you don't."
You will turn back around and go right to the truck.
It's one of those
I've
things.
never been a bigger cocksucker in my life than when I was standing on the dirt.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not a fun position to be in
No,
at all. Like it's nerve-wracking. You don't want to get it wrong. For as many people. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's one thing, you're looking for the correct calls to make, but you're also responsible for making sure that the drivers are safe, that there's there's nothing that is falling off a car that's going to get launched into the crowd or into another driver. There's so many other things you're looking at just besides the nature of the contact made and everything else. Is there what's going on under the hood? Is there fire, smoke? What's the condition of the car? What's the condition of the driver? And you're having to do
this
that.
dude over here's waving at me. He waved this other car off. Well, then he stops. Well, he didn't break his stick off. So now I got to get on that dude's ass because you just waved him off like you were breaking off and then didn't. Like,
Right.
What? I've always told him, I can't build your car, tech your car, and officiate your car. And you're going to have to do some of it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty fair statement. So let me throw this at you, since we're going down this rabbit hole. What are your guys' thoughts on every time I get that Brian gets me on the wall, okay? What is the first reaction of an official when he puts me on the wall? Like,
watch for the next guy coming in. I want to make sure there is daylight.
Okay, well that's a great point. But what do you see in the natural reaction of an official? What do they usually see? What do you
Back
usually?
off.
But
Back
why?
off.
But why? Is that a rule? Is that an unwritten rule, or what is that? And why is that?
See, I never did that unless there was 2 of them that were holding somebody against the wall. I wanted to see daylight, and I wanted to see them seesawing back and forth.
Which
But
makes
if somebody just plowed somebody into the wall and was beating on them there or holding them up against the wall until they got stuck, I'm not going to call it.
But why is it called so often? Like there's so go back and watch any derby. It's like the officials' natural reaction. And I think yeah, I think that goes back to the 10,000 hours thing. How many hours have officials actually put into how you should officiate a derby? Not many, right?
Well, I'll tell you, guys, I'll tell you this. At Spring X, in the feature, in the 4-on-4, Ryan Schaffner went to the other end a little too soon.
Yeah, I saw
PJ Snar put him on the wall. As soon as he was backing off, Alan Brown was already wide open.
And you can already see the officials.
Yep. And he started to,
Yeah, and
and
stop.
then he started to back up, and PJ done let him have it. Well, the two guys that were right there were, one was CJ Barnes. He knows that game. It was actually when they were hitting him, it moved the dirt that was behind the concrete barriers. They let him do it for, well, you watched it. I'm a good 30, 45 seconds, and Ryan reached up and broke it off.
But weren't they? Make sure I have this right. They were switching it up, or they weren't.
Yes.
Yep, nobody hit.
There was no holding.
One was backing off, and the other one was going to hit.
Wow,
It was
that's
just-
called you had a bad day, right? Like
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah, he got fucked all the way up.
Because nothing pisses me off worse than going to a derby and they're like, don't hit anybody on the wall. I'm like, well, I don't want to run here.
Yeah, that's part of the strategy of winning. That's part of
Well, because I could be the guy up against the wall. I was Whiskey City. Go back and look at it. I was the guy sitting on the wall. That's
Yeah.
fine. But don't let me build your track to let them run on. Because if you don't feel that your berms are safe enough to hit on the wall, don't have a derby.
Nope.
Right.
So we're doing some. This isn't public knowledge yet, but we're doing some docu-series filming at both King of Ohio and Bristol. So for like a production, long story, for like a production, it'll be a professional production. But in those conversations that we've had to dumb things down a lot and say, all right, what is, how does Demolition Derby work? And then we get in these conversations and we're like, all right, so people have these sticks and they're like, wait, a stick? You never told us about a stick. Like, yeah, oh yeah, we tape sticks on the pillar, because they're capturing it, right? And they're going to put it out for an audience. Hopefully it's like a Netflix or Amazon Prime type deal. That's what it's going to be produced for.
Did you tell them to hit up YouTube?
Well, they're asking us to explain this, right? And then what it's really done for Brian and I is it's really made us look at some of these things that happen in Demolition Derby and be like, yeah, why does that happen? Because like the hitting on the wall, it's like, wait, isn't your job to make contact every minute? Why, when I made contact with that guy on the wall, did he have to back up? Where is that in the rules? And then you start thinking like, oh yeah, like what the hell? That's not even in the rules. Like, why is that an unwritten rule? Like, how does this actually work?
Well, do you know how many derby drivers have asked me in our drivers meeting? We had one track that we didn't let them hit on the wall. And that was because it was my first show. I had no clue what I was doing. And after that, everybody, every time they come to our drivers meeting, they're like, can we hit on the wall? I'm like, yeah, get it. I want to see you do it.
Yeah.
Try to push them through the wall.
Right.
Yeah, it's entertaining. Then it got us thinking, like, when does a clock actually start? Have you guys ever thought about that? Like, when does a clock start?
As soon as contact was made. Whenever they back off of them, that's whenever I started my stopwatch.
Yep. As soon as there's daylight between the bumper and the fender or whatever. As soon
The
as there's
dude that,
light,
like
Yes.
my example of that is if two people met, this guy is headed from north to south, headed across the track. This guy hits the wall. Clock starts on this guy, poof, immediately.
Well, if the clock hasn't already started on that guy, right? The clock could have been on that guy already.
If he was making forward progress and turned into a hit whatsoever, I would call that as
You call that
mutual
mutual
contact.
Yeah, because I think what you described there was a scenario in which they probably both had mutual contact with themselves or somebody else, and
Yes,
then that contact engaged the one, and the one went on the clock, right?
right,
Because the guy on the wall in the circumstance you described, he could have already been on the clock.
100%.
The guy that
Yes.
hit him was just resetting his shot clock.
Right.
So let me ask you this: when's the last time you saw an official do this? Do you guys know what this means? What this would mean?
No clue.
Hmm.
In basketball, that's called the reset of the shot clock. So, and at like King of Ohio and at demo events, you're going to see that type of stuff because what that is that's the officials communicating to the driver that is a qualifying hit. Reset of the shot clock. How do you know, right? A lot of times there isn't great communication. It's not like we got wireless, communication to these drivers. So you have to verbally say, "Yep, that counted," or it didn't count. You know what I'm
And
saying?
that shit right there will clear up a lot of gray areas as far as officially.
Yeah, for sure. But also, I want
Because
people to point that out that we're doing those things and nobody else is doing them.
because I don't know how many times I have heard drive or and been to different shows and they're like half a car, that's contact. I'm like, I don't know about that because I don't agree with that. Like if somebody's poking and stroking, where they're backing up, hammering them, trying to get them stuck in the wall, that's contact.
Mhm.
Especially if both cars don't have steering. Whether they rub sides or a guy runs across the guy's back bumper, that's contact.
Well, part of the skill of driving is maintaining good track position, and if you've put yourself in a bad position on the track, you're going to have, you should pay for it, and
That's on you.
that's on you. That was your choice to drive there or drive that way.
I didn't blame anybody for me getting stuck on the wall after a minute and a half at Whiskey City.
Yeah.
It was my fault. I should not have been that close to where I could have got pinned on the wall.
One of the things
Yeah.
I think we're going to see in the progression of the sport is if you look in other sports and you listen to the commentators are constantly educating the audience on what's happening, right? And they're constantly educating the fan base on hey, this is what you just saw. This is what this is why this is where it is. And I think that is going to be the next step in Derby production is there's going to be a constant education on that. Right now, I think it's all over the wall because I mean, hell, if I'll just leave.
Have you thought about putting a book out, like Demolition Derby for Dummies? Something like that.
We don't have time for that shit.
What kills me is that you go to these shows
I'll be right back.
and you're sitting there and the announcer doesn't know a damn thing. They're an announcer. They're not a derby guy. They're not, a motorsports guy, but they can announce a little bit. They announce so-and-so's wedding or whatever. So you got people out there that don't have a clue of what's going on. So they're not keeping your audience informed. And then he doesn't really know what's going on. So when something happens on the track and he's, whether it's hauling for a fire or, EMT or something like that, that Mark Elliott, in my opinion, is probably one of the best announcers in the game. And you guys will probably agree with that as well.
Mhm.
Mark can somehow, he has figured out how to watch all 30 cars or whatever, and is pretty quick to actually get somebody's attention if there's something wrong, whether there's a bumper on the track, axle on the track, drive shaft, fire, you name it. So, and I'm sure you guys got King of Ohio. Your announcer is probably badass too. And it'll probably be the same thing for demo. So, in my opinion, a lot of times that announcer helps those officials.
Yeah, I mean, everybody should be helping everyone, right? If you have 20 eyeballs on the track and they're communicating, it's better than 2. It's better than 4. It's better than 18.
And we all hope, whether it's King of Ohio or Bristol or whatever, I think the action is going to be so stupid that I think the officials' jobs are going to be even harder.
Mm-hmm.
That's what anybody can hope. Like
Yeah.
you
Right.
pray for that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you're right on that. It's a tough job. It's gonna be a thankless job.
Well,
To be,
and to that end, that's another thing that organizing can provide. By having an organization, we can create training programs for officials on the wall. Mentorship programs where guys who don't have a ton of experience on the wall and they want to be good at it. They want to be that guy. We can provide those opportunities for their training, for the exposure to it, and critique it as they go along, and then we can have officials and inspection crews that are trained and that have that 10,000 hour mark, that have those kind of things and that certification, if you will, and gives more credibility and legitimacy to the product that's being put out. And that has
Is that anything like being forklift certified?
MLB, NFL, NBA, NCAA, NHL. Do all these people think that those officials just are, hey,
I want
I'll
to do it.
come, I'll official? That shit don't work that way. They have gone through multiple, and I mean multiple, hundreds and hundreds of hours of documented training. We've got a guy right here that, I mean, I played baseball with all the way, until we couldn't play baseball no more. And he was a MLB official. He gives classes. He gets pulled in to train other officials that are starting in this sport. So why can't we do that for demo?
There's no reason.
Demolition derby, period.
we should be, and it all comes down to resources. We don't have the resources, right? Every derby that has ever existed up until this point, there is not one dime from any of these derbies that goes to the collective efforts to further the interest of demolition derby. Well, that stops. With demo, that stops. There's going to be an invested interest in the interest of demolition derby as a whole because of the organization of demo. And that's not a shot at everything that has existed before us. That's just reality. The local county fair to King of Ohio 2 years ago. There's not a dime that went to those interests.
But that right there should clear up a little bit of that internet scrutiny that we keep talking about, of how is this going to affect our local derbies? How is this going to help us on the smaller scale? Right there's your answer.
Because we've heard that bullshit a lot.
Resource.
Yeah, well, what's it going to do? What's it going to do? Well, Stevens kind of said it, some of those guys, they're not going to be running those local shows. They're going to be coming to bigger stuff. So that's freeing that new guy up to not get his ass whipped by
the first
25 years of experience. And he might be able to start cashing some checks, building some more experience, more seat time, maybe bringing some checks home, help buy some cars, do what you got to do. When Chad Markley isn't going to be in Platte City, Missouri, at a local show whipping your ass, he might be in King of Ohio.
Yeah,
so that's going to help that way too.
Yeah, that's the structure and stuff. And sometimes I think when people say those things, I don't think they're looking for answers, if you know what I mean. They're just kind of excuse. Yeah, just jabbing. I don't think so. Right, Brian? I mean, have we talked about this? When people say those things that just kind of don't make sense.
Well, I've offered several times to have. I've responded to some of those things, and I've offered several times to say, "Hey, why don't you send me a message and we'll talk about it, and you can tell me exactly why you think this is going to hurt."
No, I've already made up my mind.
Yeah, and guess what? Zero have actually sent me a message and wanted to have that conversation. So, I mean, that's fine. But you get to find out real quick, that they didn't have it figured out they didn't have a reason why. They just wanted to say it because they don't know any different. You know,
This
they
son of a
don't have
bitch. Most of these guys just want something to bitch about. They
Yeah.
would bitch if their ice cream was cold.
Well, instead of beating on a car on a derby track, they want to beat on a keyboard.
Uh-huh.
See it a lot.
Well, and it's to actually say that publicly is, I think, a big step because that's the truth. Everyone's saying it in their garage, right? Like, oh, here we go, Joe Schmo, running his yapper again, being the keyboard warrior, but like it's almost time to just say that out loud. Like, guys, we're tired of it. Like, just we're over it. You're either held to the fire or you aren't. And in these situations that we're in here, we're held to the fire. We have to answer. Okay. The guys think, uh, uh, playing the keyboard warrior, they don't have to answer to nothing. They type the message, go to bed for the night. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I've said it for a long time. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
That's a fact.
That's
Yeah.
And
if you've ever been punched in the mouth, that's a fact. Because there's one of two things that you think, right? When you get punched in the mouth, I want to be that dude's never gonna hit me again, or I never want to get hit by that guy again. That's it. That's the only two things that can happen. That dude is never gonna hit me like that again, or you know what? That I don't want to get hit like that.
And that's how I feel about call outs. Right there. What you just explained.
Mhm.
If you don't accept the call out, I got a different opinion of you.
See, I don't necessarily. I saw you guys touch on that, and I know we're getting late into this thing, but I saw you guys touch on that a little bit, and I heard that the EPR called out Misco Crane, and I got a little bit different opinion on it. You would think that I wouldn't with what I said, but we haven't created an atmosphere in which it's beneficial to accept that call out. If you know what I'm saying, like there was like 8 teams, maybe 6 teams at Spring X that could have won the show. Why take your chances and run against one of the 6 in the heat if you don't have to?
Pride would have got to me. That's where I was at with it.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you
Derek
right
had
now,
a different opinion than I did.
Bob Whitaker don't need no pride, okay? Bob Whitaker is one of the baddest dudes on the freaking planet. He don't give a shit.
I'm just telling you.
You're right.
I'm just telling you that if somebody wanted to call me out, I'd have to accept it. I just
one-on-one's one thing, a team versus team thing. I think that's just a different animal.
well, see, then that right there makes me think that you don't have faith in your team.
No, it's not that. It's not that at all. And I'm saying this. I want to see that as much as anyone, right? But I'm saying this. It just doesn't make any sense. Like it honestly is more of a logical decision to not see. You're thinking on emotion. You're thinking, hey, you called me out.
100%.
I'm thinking
100%.
Bob did not become Bob Whitaker thinking on emotion. I can tell you
that dude don't drive or operate with emotion at all.
No,
I mean,
he
Now, I was sitting there as soon as those heat draws happened. I pulled in. The main reason that EPR did the call out is because they would rather take the baddest team 1-on-1 instead of 1-on-2 or 1-on-3.
Yes.
makes total
Because
sense.
we all know Bob's got friends. We all know, like Luke Schaffner and Ryan Schaffner. They
You don't
got
think
friends.
Adam Lemonadger has friends?
They
This
do.
is where we argue all the time.
So
No,
they
but I
wanted.
think that makes sense, man. It makes tons of sense.
They just figured it was
Because I
easier
would
to
have
get
acted
it
on
the
emotion. Everybody else is thinking logical, and I'm like, fuck you. You're not calling me out.
Well, all right. Let me ask you this. Well, think of it like this: you taking Bob or you taking PJ 1-on-1?
What car?
How
don't
long do
even
I have
tell
to get
me
this
what
done?
car. The resumes aren't even
they
close.
only drive one car. Bob
Yeah.
in a wagon,
They only-
PJ in a
yeah.
Ford.
I don't care what it is.
But how long do I have to get it done? There's my question. Is it a timed heat?
All right, just go on resumes. Let's do that. Let's go on resumes. Who's got the better resume? Bob, PJ.
Bob does.
Okay. Who's got the better resume? Bob. Who was Brown? Was it Brown, right?
Alan Brown.
Alan Brown.
Before I went against Alan Brown, I'd take on Bob Whitaker.
But take emotion out of it. Who's got the better resume?
Bob
does.
Bob has a better resume than all of them.
Than all of them, right? So
then why not accept the call out?
See, there's that trick.
Because in that format,
because if I'm better than them guys, why not accept it? If I already know that I'm better than them,
this is
my
what
resume looks better.
I like this.
So why? Okay, so say that me and you are going against a job, and say we're going to a construction job. I've got a better resume than you. I'm a better operator, but they give you the job. But they ask us both, "Hey, who wants this job?" And we both say yes. But, well, it would have been like you saying no to that job and me taking it. Like, if you've got a better resume than me.
Look, I get that. I just think that show, and I think like all shows, almost any show, there's not 16 bad dudes at the show where it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you look at this, I'm not saying this, when you look at the Bristol list,
that show's stupid. That show is stupid.
It doesn't really matter who you draw, dude. They're all EPRs and they're all, Misco crates. Like every single one of them.
Every one of them.
Well, yes, 100%. I'm just saying.
But at Spring X, it wasn't that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you had Will Norwood's team. You had some Maoris. You had Bob's team. You had EPR.
Let me throw this out here. This is the last thing I will cut in on and say. Okay, so the way it looks to me is I don't want to take on that team because I could get beat. Why not let them fight it out? Because they might draw the second best team out there. Their shit's hurt when they come to the feature. Then I know I can beat them.
I bet you if
now you're thinking, ain't you? Look at Brian. Brian's thinking he's like, you sons of bitches.
I bet you if it was a one-on-one scenario, I bet you they wouldn't have mind. They wouldn't have cared. But the fact that the feature is I don't want to say different. It's just there's a lot of politics that go into features like that.
Oh yeah.
So I bet you there would have been a different outcome. Does that make sense?
I can agree with that. But I guess my next question is, with the three baddest dudes that you all have lined up for that dogfight at King of Ohio, how come you didn't call somebody that nobody knows?
Well, because when you headline an event, okay, right? There's headliners for a reason. It's who everyone wants to see. So
that would have been a headlining heat at Spring X. Oh, like everybody wanted to see that.
Yeah, but these guys are getting rewarded for that. They've got
I get that.
Yeah, I mean,
sponsorship dollar.
They're incentivized.
Yeah, they're incentivized to do it. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit different. Like Chad and JT and Pete, they all agreed, knowing that they were getting this because of because of this call out. In that moment, you're not really getting anything extra. The only thing you're wasting is a $5,000 wagon in a heat, right? Like, you're not getting it. You're not really incentivized at all to do that.
And a better shot in the feature.
No,
because somebody's gonna have to go through the consi.
You're not getting if those two faced each other in the heat, neither one of them are winning the feature. Because
I will agree with that.
Here's why.
It's kind of like
go ahead.
It's kind of like what we saw at the Summit Derby. There were a few heats there where neither team won. It was like, you know what I'm saying? Like neither team really won. Whether you actually won or lost, it didn't matter. You were so hurt walking out of that heat or driving out of the heat. You didn't have much to put back together for the feature. And many of those teams didn't even go into the feature because they had nothing left to put back together.
Mm-hmm.
So, but on the entertainment side of it,
it's great.
that TV.
Mhm.
Because if you think about this, Norwood Fab took on EPR, right? EPR annihilated them. Norwood went through the consi, hurt. They fixed their shit. They went to the consi, had just a couple hours to fix their shit again, and damn near finished in the top 3. They finished 4th.
Mhm.
So one little fluke thing from whether it was Bob's team or EPR's team that this dumb shit can happen, that puts them in the money, and they got it on. They got it on.
Greatest thing about sports right there is the unpredictability, right?
Yes.
What you just described was there's so much there. Like there's so much bottled up. We could go another hour, it feels
Oh
like,
yeah.
just
Yeah.
on that heat and say, well,
What if?
yeah, what if, I think Norwood went out that like really quick in that heat, right? So
yeah.
then 4-on-3, and I think Brandon Myers was the last car running, and then
Yeah.
Les got smoked against the wall and lost steering. Like if I remember that heat right.
Mhm.
Oh, what if this? What if that? There's
Oh, yeah.
so much going on there.
That's why we do what we do, and we love the sport so much.
Yeah.
It's because of the unpredictability of the outcome. I love it. That's why I won't get away from it.
That's why we need more of the matchups that you're going to see at King of Ohio, because that shit sells. Everyone wants to see it. Now, look, I think what's probably going to happen, and I don't want to be able to predict everything, but is these guys might take a little heat. Like, let's say Chad goes out there and gets stomped, right? Or Pete gets stomped, or JT gets stomped. Some of them might catch heat. They were the third best in the heat, and maybe the third best at the entire Derby. You know what I'm saying? Don't
Yes.
forget that. Don't forget that they may have been the third best person at the entire Derby. So but you
Yeah,
got
in the
to
words of the great Reese Bobby, if
Yeah.
you're not first, you're last.
Well,
first.
and you know what? Here's a potential scenario. Let's say Chad or Pete get beat or JT gets beat. They go back through the consi and they win their way into the feature, and then they win the feature and they beat the guy who beat them earlier. Like, here we go.
That's the baddest in the yard.
That right there is what makes entertainment. That's
Mhm.
what you're trying to do.
I'll give you an example. Last year, tell me any show that this has ever happened at, okay, or that this happens at. In 2022, Devin Allen and Brady Allen made the feature, okay? In 2023, they were the only 2 people from 2022 to make the feature. The only 2. And there was a lot of, change. There was a lot of turnover in the feature, but Devin Allen lost to Chad Arnold last year in the heat, won the consi. By the way, our consis are extremely hard, meaning there was 6 people in the consi and we only take 1. So he had to win the consi. Okay. Then he came back and got second to JT. Okay. In the feature, he got second. He went the long way. And by the way, JT lost the previous year to Trace Braun, who in his heat, who won the whole thing.
Yes.
Like, there's what just happened here. I mean, it's wild, the storyline that you're talking there. I mean,
So right there, what you just said is another hour-long conversation of what if.
Mhm.
well, what if the year prior, Trace
He
and
would have
JT,
come out of the heat.
yeah, Trace and JT don't run it, get each other in the heat.
Yeah.
That is the type of shit that we need in the Derby world right there. The what ifs.
That's what people will tune into to see the next episode.
Mhm.
Yes, because honestly, right now, man, we made a 10,000 to win list. All right, and Bob sits up the top of that 10,000 to win list. Is it really a 10,000 to win list, or do a lot of those guys on that list have the buddy system? Right? Are they actually getting it done themselves? We know. Look, we know they're all really, really good, but you got to separate yourself within that list. When you get to that top 10, is it really the same list that it should be? Or is I don't want to say shows getting cherry picked or whatnot, but are people running more places with more friends than the average guy down the street? You know,
One thing that we always say, did you get your ass whipped? Yeah. I guess you should have brought more friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
we want to get away with it. We want to get away from that, though. I think as a sport,
yes.
because that doesn't sell. Like, I'm not interested. I'll tell you right now. Like, I've won a $10,000 derby. I'm not interested in going to Illinois. And most
Mhm.
and Chad, for example, I'll speak for Chad. Chad isn't interested in coming to Ohio unless it was the format. Why? Because he just doesn't have any friends here. You
No,
can't
he
win
doesn't.
without friends.
Derby politics.
I watched him at Cornhusker Chaos in his mod car, and he had 5 to 8 dudes on him the entire time until he went out.
Yeah.
Constant. I mean, he was right in front of me, and I watched him let go of the steering wheel
And just let
because
him
he
beat
was
him.
just pinballing. And when
And
that
what
shit
are those
stopped, then he
5-day
grabbed the
guys?
wheel and turned.
Those 5-day guys would say, "Oh, we beat Chad Markley." It's like,
Oh yeah, no, you didn't.
yeah, no, you didn't.
Gang raped
No,
him.
you didn't.
What if there was 2? What do you think Chad's odds of 2 of winning that battle?
2-on-1
It would have been a hell of a lot better than 5.
or
Exactly.
8.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he could probably handle that. That's my argument, for the format is you can handle 2 cars. You can't handle 3, 4. You can't handle being held against the wall. You
This
can't.
all comes back to your UFC comment. Like,
Yeah.
Derby is
The
the
UFC with cars.
Yes.
Mhm.
And when we start looking at it like that way, and we adopt it and we embrace it, sky's the limit.
Yep.
You stop having 3-4 hour features, you start having dog fights, and all this conversation. I mean, how many times when I put out 50,000 to win at King of Ohio, or 25,000 to win the year before, or 100,000 at Bristol, the first comments are, "Oh, that's going to be a terrible show. It's going to last." There's a stigma associated with big money in Demolition Derby. We got to get rid of that. It exists for a reason. But when there's big money in Demolition Derby and there's dog fights, it's a friggin' war. We've crossed that bridge,
Yep.
So, guys, we're 2 hours into this thing. We got to wrap her up.
And my phone's at 4%.
Hey, give us the information on where to find you guys at, because you guys are going to talk a lot about Demolition Derby across the nation, not just our stuff, but you guys are going to have Chad, JT, and Pete on here in the near future. Where can we find you guys at?
Hard Nosed Derby Podcast on Facebook.
We're on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcast. Hit us with a Google search. Demolition Derby Podcast, Hard Nose, right at the top of the
These
list.
are the very top one. You can follow us on Facebook. There's links in there. They will launch every Thursday a.m. at 4:30. And 101 episodes have never been late. So we get your content. Sometimes we get a little crude, but we have fun doing it, and we're just not afraid to let everybody what we think our opinions are.
Yeah.
Well, we got a little deeper into the weeds tonight too, and that was fun. So I appreciate from this end. I'll speak for Brian and I. We appreciate all the work that goes into behind the scenes to making this happen week in and week out, because we're entertained. I hope everybody else is entertained, and the sport needs it.
No, I had a blast.
Get your demo membership if you haven't got it yet.
Mhm.
Looks like you guys are having a special deal for the Bristol show. Looks like maybe sign your team up.
Yep.
Get a little kickback for your membership that maybe be included right there.
It better be.
There's something for everybody. It's not just the top dogs. You've got your.
And if you want to run the stock class, I still do need a teammate.
Yeah, we have a couple full-size classes. We have a couple compact car classes. We have a minivan class. We have a full-size truck class. there's something for everybody out there. Go check out the rules if you haven't already. Check out our website, and it's all there. We want to have you there. It's going to be an incredible show. A lot of cool things are going to be happening here in the near future, so stay tuned.
Dustin, Brian, man, we appreciate you having us on. We really do.
Thank you guys for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Make jump, boys.